There are actually 3 reasons it's not on the drive. One is, Richard said to keep it a surprise. 2 is, it wasn't ready, because some of the things I'm talking about are hours old. And the 3rd is to prevent people skipping ahead during the presentation, which annoyed the hell out of me, but Brian's not here, so it probably isn't actually going to happen. So, another introductory comment. During this talk, I will invariably say they, SwissMicros, we, including myself and part of who was involved in designing this, but just use them interchangeably. I'm not an employee of SwissMicros. I'm not involved with them as an employee or contractor, anything of that nature. It's just fun. And as is usual, I stuck my nose and my mouth into a lot of conversations until they decided it was probably less painful to involve me than to keep me out.
We've noticed.
So, the new machine that will be more formally introduced, probably minutes from now on the museum website and a few days later on the SwissMicros website, is the new DM41X, which, as it says, is a clone with a difference. There's a slide I'll get into with questions about when and how much and blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. But what I would say is, in the context of what I'm talking about, if you have a question, just please raise your hand. If it's more not what I'm talking about, I'll probably get to it. Not everything, but stuff that isn't on topic, I'd say let's defer to the end. So there's a screen, not a screenshot, but there's a capture of the DM41X. As you can see, and as we'll talk about in a minute, it's built on the same platform as the DM42 and the DM43C that Gunther's going to talk about later. By platform, I mean both the hardware device and also the DMCP, the operating system that they wrote. So what is the DM41X? The 41X is, I say, a CX clone plus plus, built on the same platform. First and foremost, it's able to run essentially all 41 software. The intention is to be able to run any 41 software, synthetic, M-code, ROMs, programs, user programs. It's emulation, it's not simulation, so it should, and so far has, run essentially anything that you can do on the 41. One of the key factors of it, because the 41 was so pivotal in the transformation, in my view, even just within the community, but also in the larger market, in many ways, we wanted to keep it as pure 41 as it could be, and one of the signature elements of the 41 is the 14-segment LCD. And sure, there are better, more high-res and so forth, but we wanted to keep it as pure to that as possible. And yes, there's a flying goose, which we'll see. I'm sorry, the famous program in Bill Wick's Green Book of the goose flying backwards does indeed fly backwards. So, with the exception of some modern ROMs that Angel Martin has written, which are to a small extent tailored to the platforms that they can run on, the 41CL and some of the emulators, which are not pure 41 in many different ways. So he's made them work on those, but that may not work on this. But as you're going to see, Angel's part of the team has been involved too, so they all work here now. One of the key differences, and probably the single most frustrating aspect of using a 41 in the modern day, but even back then, was the ability to get data and programs easily in and out of it. This has a USB connection, which works in 2 ways. One, if you're a 42 user, you probably already know this. One is with the bootloader, so you can update the firmware very easily. But 2, it also has a virtual fat disk. So you just connect it to your machine and plug it in and go to the menu and poof, it's a drive on your laptop or computer, so you can just drag and drop files back and forth. And we'll get into some of that. It's going to print to the whistle printer, but probably in the end it's going to use the 82143 ROM for a few different reasons. So there are minor differences between the dedicated printer and the IL printer. And there are additional minor differences with the IR printer, but this is going to print to the IR because it can, and anyone with 42 knows it does. But the ROM for the 82143 is much more implementable. The IL printer module is part of that. The printer components for the IL printer are part of the module, and it's all encapsulated in packets, and it would take a ton of effort to undo that. And again, this is running the real ROM, so this isn't a matter of simulating. If it was simulating, it would be easier to simulate that. Go ahead.
Question. When the 42 was being developed, I was working at HPCalc at the time, I always personally felt that one of the weaknesses of the 42 was it didn't have a program checksum. Now, I've talked to Michael several times about this. For some reason, nobody else, so like triangles, you know, nobody else cares, or whatever, but my question is there a program checksum?
No, because the 41 ROM does not
Did
have a
not,
program
yeah.
checksum, and it's running the 41 ROM. It's not pretending to be, it's running the actual 41 ROM.
But it could be a plus feature.
It could be, and as we've encountered various things, the emulation, it's emulation, so you're controlling the universe that it sees, so it could be done. It's pretty fast. It has a fast and slow mode, cleverly named fast and slow, but it defaults to fast mode. But in fast mode, it slows down automatically without you having to do anything for important things like the beep. So, oh, that's good. Never thought of that for the presentation. Could you hear it?
Yeah.
So it's the real beep. It also there's a bunch of things that it has to slow down for. Alpha scroll, for example. You can make it scroll really fast, but then you can't read it. And it's a pain point we've played with. Should we make it scroll faster? Because the alpha scroll was always frustratingly slow, but it's pretty genuine. And there's a whole bunch of other things too. The folks involved, anyone who's used a 41 all along, even though we love it and everything, there's annoying things about it, just like there is for every machine. So some of the things that we tried to do is to focus on making some of those annoying things less annoying. It's a shame you can't do it with speakers. What is the 41 not? It is not a landscape machine. They heard loud and clear that the DM41L is cool and interesting and landscape. And what the heck portrait. This is wrong. No, this is right. It is not landscape. The slides went back and forth. The 41L is cool and an interesting implementation, but by being landscape, it annoyed a lot of people and it's really hard to use if you're a 41 user. Non-41 users picked it up and learned to use it right away. It is not able to do HPIL, but it appears with a little exploration that conceivably is in future versions. No one's committing to it, no one's saying it can, but with the virtual HPIL implementations out there, it's not fully impossible, but it certainly will not be something that's supported anytime soon.
The IL was a module, wasn't it?
But you don't have to use HPIL cables to do HPIL, as the Pillbox and other devices have proven. So with virtual implementations, suddenly, basically, you're just moving little 11-bit frames through USB or whatever. It is not able to accept physical modules, so yes, you can run every HP module, but you're not plugging them in because it's the same hardware that we've seen. Modules in software for emulation come in, or let's call them HP packs, little plastic modules, come in two different software formats. One is mod files and one is ROM files. And the difference is a mod file, as the name suggests, is all the information that's in a module, which could be more than one ROM, whereas a ROM file is just a 4K page. So there's products like the Advantage pack. That module actually has 3 4K ROMs in it. On the CL, for example, you load the 3 pages. On this, you're just loading one file. There are some advantages to be able to run ROM files. One advantage, for example, is every month Monty updates and publishes a zip file with every latest version of every one. And a lot of people say, latest versions, this is 40-year-old stuff. There's not. There's new modules being written today. I know of 2 or 3 different ones being written today. So this stuff is continuing. So that may be included in the future, but day one, it's module files, and we'll see a little bit of why in a minute. There are several CL-specific modules out there. To my knowledge, only from Angel, probably, right? The CL-specific ones? I'm not...
They are coming from Monty?
Well, Monty too, okay.
But Angel, I read.
Yeah.
I've made some.
Those do not work because they are tuned and defined for the some of the subtle differences inside the CL, and at the time, who would have thought that there'd be another 41 machine for them to run in? One of the nice points of the 42, anyone here a 42 user, DM42, ever been surprised that the batteries run out on you?
No.
And there will be 0 hands because most people are probably still using the same coin cell that it came in forever. So what I put is it's not going to run out without weeks. Originally it said months, but being a conservative, I changed it to weeks. But you're not going to have that problem. Also, it's not reading cards, so you're not going to suck down the batteries like a 41 would do. This machine will never ever have broken posts, and it will never ever have a bad zebra connector. And what that comes down to is 41s are awesome. Even though, in my case, the 71 is my favorite machine, when I just have to do something that I haven't thought about or whatever, the 41 is just a comfort zone to go to because you can just think in 41. But, like here I am here, I don't want to take my 41 because one drop, one fall, one bang, and you've just killed it.
That's why you have more than 10.
Well, I do, but and you can almost drive nails with these, as anyone who's got one can attest. So one of the aspects of this is you can take your 41 with you anywhere. It's rugged, it's solid, you don't have to baby it. So that's a beautiful aspect of it. I couldn't help but take a moment to slam the full nuts by saying this is not half nut, by saying it's not an inferior machine with round corners. And it's not available quite yet, but we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Does it have a backlight?
It does not. I mentioned that there's some extras in it. One of the extras is you can save the entire machine state. And again, if you're a 42 user, you probably are familiar with this feature. If you're not, the idea is you build up the configuration of your machine with programs and key assignments and all kinds of things that don't perhaps lend themselves to other applications you may want to use. A good example is there's some really great ROMs out there for doing complex calculations. Another one is finance. And these are usually heavy with key assignments and things like that could conflict with others. So the idea is you build up the entire machine configuration with all the data, programs, key assignments, whatever you want, and just save that state. It just saves the entire machine state, so you just call it finance or my state file, as you're going to see appearing.
Where can you save it to?
It's saved to the flash memory in the computer, actually
Is it keys?
RAM.
Probably a keys by.
RAM, it's in the RAM file system. And you can save basically as many as you want. Yes, we've tried 20 and that kind of thing. And so the idea is you load up the configuration for the task at hand and go do stuff and do whatever, and if you want, save that latest version if you change the data in that state file, or just abandon it and just go load a new one. So it essentially gives you different personalities of your 41. Another aspect of that is kind of a side effect is you can make a 41's full of stuff, save it and send it to somebody. So if somebody's interested in some programming thing you're doing or what have you, you could just make a state file and email it to somebody, and in about 30 seconds they've loaded your entire machine with just one click, pretty much. One of the things I mentioned is the module configuration is not part of the state file, and that mirrors the physical nature of it. In a 41, you can take all the modules out of a machine, and everything in the machine is still in the machine. You can plug all new modules in, and everything is still the same. In the future, there's going to be a look at possibly saving the metastate, the state of the machine itself, plus the ROMs and maybe the ROM images that go with it, so you could literally have a snapshot of the entire machine. Significant changes to the screen and display, obviously because of the beautiful LCD, the huge LCD that the DM42 originally had. But we did some things that are quite different, and I had not seen before with that as well, that you'll see in a minute. Angel had been involved, and Angel had written some additional functions for the free space and the 41CX ROMs, things that if someone were to come along and say, hey, I need a new ROM for the 41, what would you put in? In an odd, ironic way, someone did approach Angel and say, hey, do you have a ROM that would have some other things? And he did. So these are interesting things like $. Is the text editor. As you see below, it's going to include lowercase support, alpha backspace, rename a file and storage. TRNG is very interesting. It's a time-based random number generator, so it is more random, mathematically not, but effectively yes. View alpha turns alpha on without stopping the machine, so you can just turn alpha on and have things come on. So they're little utility things that you kind of, hey, I wish it did this. The full lowercase character set is available throughout the machine and also in the editor. And one of the nice things is, heretofore, the only way you could see the full lowercase set on a 41 was on a half nut, which had narrower and yuckier, to use the technical term, LCD representation. So these are the full character set with the more 41 aspect ratio, original full nut. And as I said, it has cleverly named fast commands and fast and slow commands. Spec overview, I am not going to talk about chipsets and things of that nature because I don't care about them, as long as it does what I want it to do, the way I want it to do it. I find that more interesting to talk about. And also, this has been talked about with the DM42. Gunther talked about it two years ago, I think? Yeah, 2 years ago, when you did the talk. However, yeah. So what is this machine? It's a 41CX with 2 X memory modules, and think of it as 10 physical ports. In a 41, a port is really 2 pages. On this machine, you can address the pages separately. So the metaphor is, just think of it as if you could plug 10 things in. You can't always, there are 10 that Sylvain could pick that couldn't all fit at once because he knows how many pages each one has and all that. But to the typical user, it comes down to you can basically plug in all the ones that you want without any impact. Memory, the full 319 registers, 600 XMEM, 256 kilobytes of pluggable modules, and we'll get into how you plug modules in, but what that basically means is you can have 256K of modules in the machine ready to just plug in, plug out, plug in, plug out. So the metaphor is somewhat different, but still analogous to the way CL has implemented all the ROMs I want. In the case of CL, it's literally all the ROMs there are. So this is not quite as much, this is half, but it's still probably an order of magnitude more than anyone would actually need or want. Yep.
Okay, 2 things. One, 256K is like the V2 41CL.
The early ones, yeah.
Yeah. 10 free ports, actually 11 if you count page 4.
With count page 4, there's 11.
Yeah, okay, that's.
Okay, yeah. That's my next line. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped it. You're right, thanks. The system ROM pages that I mentioned, alluded to, you actually have 6 through F, which is the 10, and there is no HPIL module, so you're not going to have to worry about page 6 or page 7. So I just called it 10 by 4 by 4, which is 10 pages of 4 kilobytes of 4 banks for each page.
Sorry, but page 6 is the printer. So if you activate the printer.
If you activate the printer, then page 6 is a conflict.
Okay.
But again, you're not plugging it in, you're essentially turning it on.
Virtually plug it.
Yeah.
Some ROMs will cause problems if you plug them into the printer page because the mainframe makes calls into that for printing.
Yep, yep.
Even when printing's not turned on.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Printing is almost 48 hours old, so there's some new stuff with that. Pardon me. Sorry, Jake.
Put it on top. up near the ground.
No, the bottom part fell. That was a big thunk for you, wasn't it? In addition, there's, I wrote 6,000 kilobytes instead of 6 megabytes because from the perspective of any 41 things that you're moving back and forth, a kilobyte is typically a larger size than is relevant. So the point there is that tons and tons and tons of disk space, and we'll talk about what things are on there in a bit. There's also RAM available that can be mapped into the ROM pages so that you can implement what's called the QRAM, quasi-ROM, which everyone remembers the RAM boxes and MLD boxes and eventually HPACs modules and things of that nature. So you can allocate RAM into the ROM space, which can do a bunch of things, but essentially the two things are store files and run files, like HPACs and others do, but also it lets you pretend to be ROM so that then you can do assembly language, M code, in the ROM space addressed properly and save them from there. The screen is the same 400 by 240 LCD that everyone knows and loves. The stack is going to show X or alpha, Y, Z, and T, and then there's another mode as well. If you're not familiar with the DM42, borrow one from somebody and look at it here. It's about the best contrast LCD anyone's ever made that I've seen. And it has an interesting feature that even when it's off, it appears to be on. And doubters in the SwissMicros forum have spent tremendous amounts of effort proving that it's essentially zero current consumption, but it looks like it's on. So you can keep your screen on. So they've created the notion of what's called the off screen. So when you turn it off, it puts something on the screen. And if you dump 20 of these images into a certain place, every time you turn it off, it'll show you the next off screen. And clever things have come about. Somebody made a picture of a broken screen so that when you pick it up, it looks. But the most clever one, I was just telling Joe, I think about it earlier, the most clever one is the trivial answer. Someone made a blank screen, which confuses every DM owner because the screen is never blank. So when you turn it off, so a lot of things. So the best part of the 42 is in here. There's also, as I said, a micro USB port for where you connect. While you're connected, the machine switches from, if I remember right, from 12 megahertz to 48 megahertz, I think, are the numbers. And it's also powered by USB. So people who want to do crazy, complex calculations that are going to run for 20 minutes want to use this mode, so it's 20 minutes, not 40 minutes or whatever. I think they should be using other machines to do that, but that's their choice. Here's a close-up of the keyboard, and I put a word here, that this is a religious topic. Everyone has the right answer. They may not impose their views on others, but we are going to talk about it. Yeah.
Is this going to have the slots on the keyboard for overlays?
So it's a yes, but not the way you think. It does not have the slots for 41 overlays because there's 6 columns, not 5.
I don't need the original, but the ability to.
So there are some, but they're essentially taken up by the overlay that's provided. And it could change because there's been so much discussion about it. It's something that they're looking at for the future. One answer that some people have come up with is to just make overlays, the black part. Another is to have thin overlays and tape and so forth. So right now it doesn't have the kind of slots like 48 has, where they're on the sides.
The 42
Yep.
has.
It has the slots which it doesn't use by the overlay, but typically the overlay is thick enough that you can't get at the slots.
Okay, because
Right.
I've never seen an overlay for the 42S, because they don't make them.
No one's made them yet. But that discussion is starting in, Gunther, are you going to talk about that? The overlays?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so he's going to talk about the WP43C, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the guys in that discussion on the SwissMicros forum His day job is making thin plastic things with laser etching and cutting. So his night job is now coming up with some for the DM. So once he makes some, I think there will be a lot of requests for different ones. Back to this, my summary of the emotional nature of this is peace in the Mideast is really easy. Working on this keyboard is hard because every change you make, you can spend hours and hours adjusting things and finally come to the perfect answer. And when you show it to the next person, their immediate reaction is, no, that does in no way adjust to things. So the current keyboard layout is shown here. Essentially, the 41 standard keyboard is the leftmost 5 columns. And the toggle buttons, the 4 toggle buttons on user, alpha, and program at the top are down the new column, if you will, plus some cursor keys. The alpha is blue, not a button, not a labeled button to correspond with the lettering, the blue lettering. The alpha locations are identical to the 41. But 2 keys have been moved over, and this is one of the religious discussions that we will get to towards the end, little opinion stuff. The run stop key and the back arrow key have been moved out to the edge for what I call feel access. So in UI design, the things that you use most often, the things that, oh, I gotta hit run stop because the program's running away or what have you, to make them easiest to find. Now, studies have shown that there's no question that these are easiest to find, but those studies didn't include people who have been using HP 41s for 40 years and want the buttons exactly where they were on a 41. So, best for, it's an interesting challenge, best for a small number of people who are highly vocal and can explain every which way why it's best, and best for most of the people aren't necessarily the same thing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. There's a button you've not seen on there before called Display, or DSP, that toggles the display mode, and we'll get to that in a minute. The cursor keys do the things you would expect. If you hit down, it's single step. If you hit that, it's back step. So even from run mode, you can single step. You can use the original single step as well, but it's just easier if you're navigating. And they're also used in menu functions, and it's used in the editor as well. There's another button there called Custom, and there it is. We'll talk about that maybe at next year's HHC. So there are 2 different displays inherent in the design, one of which you see there, and that's XYZT. And there's another one that we'll see in another minute. And what the display button does is just toggles back and forth between these 2 display modes. But it's an invisible toggle in the sense of you could be in the middle of typing a number in, and you want to go to the other screen to go see what was I there, and you hit it and go back, and you can go back and forth. So it doesn't change your state, it doesn't change where you're at. It just lets you go back and forth between the views. There's a header that shows the date, the time, the battery. It also shows the name of the state file you're in, because we talked about you can have a state file for finance and one for trigonometry. And when you pick up your machine next week and you want to do something with it, like how is this set up, what's assigned where, so it just has the state file name at the top. So at a glance you can see which 41 you're holding in your hand. Another semi-religious discussion was enunciators. Should the enunciators that we use be perhaps convey more information, or should they be 41 pure? And 41 pure seems to have won the day so far. With one minor exception, one very minor exception that we'll talk about in a minute. And the battery enunciator is in there, even though, as I mentioned in the header, there's a battery enunciator that's similar to the DM42 that shows you as your battery's going down, but it still has the bat to come on there because experience has shown that people react differently to those enunciators. The enhanced views, the stuff that we're going to show, are not likely to be supported in the printing because the 41 ROM didn't print these enhanced views, and we're using that ROM. It conceivably could be extended, but not right away. So here's the 2 views, and this is a busy slide. The The stack view is the one that's vanilla and what you would expect. It's got X, Y, Z, T, but when you're in alpha mode, the bottom line becomes alpha. The line above it, using it showed that when you turn alpha on, the little alpha enunciator comes on, but based on what you're running and doing, it may not be entirely obvious that you're in alpha, because alpha can contain numbers and X can contain letters and things of this nature. So that's an enunciator which, when it's described, seems kind of weird and awkward, but when you use it, it's very intuitive and very fluid, and it's very nice. The display is static, so if you're running a program, you're not seeing X, Y, Z, and T moving real fast, because it just slows things down so much. So when you're running, X, Y, Z, T or A, Y, Z, T is static, except the Goose is moving across the bottom. The other mode is something that I dubbed sysinfo mode, which this is one of the areas that we talked before. Everyone has things about the 41 that were kind of annoying. How do you fix those? A lot of those problems came from the limited LCD. So we used the unlimited LCD to address some of those things, and I have a detailed slide for that we're going to go to. X and alpha are both always visible, so it's different from XYZT, AYZT. One of the interesting side effects of that is if you've ever used a program, and the one that comes to mind to me is the finance ROM, it has the labels for the keys above it, and when you go to do entry, as soon as you start entering, it's the label that told you where to hit payment or future value is immediately gone, because you're now typing things. So alpha became invisible when you started entering. Now alpha remains visible even during your entry. And the stuff above it is the new stuff, so to speak. And here's a larger shot of the sysinfo view. And it has 3 lines above the X and alpha with alarm information, available memory information, program information, and then the alpha and X displays. One is the pending alarms, so it knows about the alarm mode. There's a clock built in, and it understands. I mean, it is XYZT alarm or XYZ alarm. One of the things that I found annoying, I don't know who else did, with the 41 is if you had past due alarms, when you'd come back to it, it had its way of telling you it was past due, because you go in and it would come up and it would beep once until you did this, unless it was Thursday, and then you had to do that sort of thing. So this one has, you see the little alarm clock icon there. This one has different icons for the different states. The alarm clock icon means that there's a pending alarm. If you've missed it, then it changes to the alarm, a ringing alarm, to show you that there's a past due alarm. And if there's none, I think it's a cup of coffee. A little cup of coffee means no alarms. It also shows you the date and the time and the text of the alarm, so you can see, because now at 1 o'clock, or East Coast time, I guess, I'm presenting the HHC thing. And the number to the right is how many pending alarms there are. Not sure anyone's ever going to get past 2 digits, but the next line shows available number of available registers, free RAM, free register space, memory space, / free extended memory space. The third thing that's shaded, I'll come back to in a second. The shaded means probably not visible if you're not using that aspect, but it's unclear if the shading is going to stay. And the thing to the right is the current size, number of registers allocated to storage versus program space. The third memory indicated at the moment is, will be shortly, the amount of available HPCalc memory that you have. So if you have HPCalc installed, the system understands that, and it will show you HPCalc memory. And anyone who's a 41 fan of any kind knows that the HPCalc was this mythical thing that could do stuff, and if it only didn't cost $5,000, I would have one, and so forth. It's really very interesting, but it does things that most people, I think, don't even know that it could do. Like, for example, you could store programs in it, focal programs, and run them out of HPCalc memory, which is something I never knew. I thought it was offline, like extended memory or whatever. So because you don't have to pay for the modules and you can just load it, now people can explore it and use it and do stuff. So if you're going to do that, we decided to provide information on that as well. The next line is another one of the annoying things. Who here was ever editing a 41 program and didn't remember which program they were editing? Basically everyone who's used a 41, right? So this lists the name of the program and what line am I on and what's the max line number. So if you're in run mode and you single step, that L001 goes to 2, 3, 27, maybe because you took a jump or something. So it's showing you your actual current line. The name of the program is the topmost global label, because there are programs that don't start with a label at the top for different key reasons and other things. And there are programs that don't have global labels at all, and the temporary program with the .n are in there. So it is as close as telling you what you consider the name of the program as can be. What have I left out? The printer. The printer module, like any other module, is not a physical plug-in thing. It says you go to a screen and select which module you want to plug in. And as someone brought up, it takes up page 6 rather, and it can interfere with other things. So if you're not printing, you may want to turn it off. So essentially this will show you the state, the printer colon will show you that the module's plugged in, and past it, probably, the mode that it's in. Is it in manual mode? Is it in trace mode? Is it in manual trace?
Off.
No.
No, I don't.
No, manual trace.
Norm.
Norm, of course. Who would have thought of normal? Not me. And as I mentioned, X and alpha are always visible, and one of the bennies there is that you can see the prompts from alpha as you're doing entry. So this is the other display mode, so that DSP button toggles back and forth between these two. So what I call it is, if you're just calculating, you're just interested in the numbers, you're sustained calculating, but you can go over to this screen for program information and stuff. So it provides information, if there is, I didn't copy anything in doing this, I think I kind of made stuff up, but it provides useful information for other aspects without interfering with the screen, because you can just go back and forth. Any questions on that? Is that too confusing, or, yeah?
Any local, I know the 342 Tom Oken in the last few versions introduced syntax to support local registers. What about?
No, I'm going to sound like a parrot, but no, because the 41 ROM doesn't know anything about that. This is running the 41 ROM, so it doesn't. No, there is no possible local. With synthetics, you can, kind of. You can kind of put stuff on, on the stack, but not the way you're thinking. No. Yeah.
Do they essentially use the EM42 hardware, or is it a new development?
No, it's the same hardware.
The same hardware.
Yeah, and there are subtleties why, there are good reasons why, but you can run, the big question, I'll take it away right now, the big question, can I load the DM41X software on my DM42 hardware so I don't have to buy another machine?
Yeah.
Yes, but it sucks, because the keyboards are totally different. So, yeah, but the keyboards are totally different, so good luck with that. In a 41X, the on key is the top right, in a 42, it's the bottom left.
Just over there.
So, I'm sorry.
I got one question. On the keyboard, the on button is top right corner.
Yep.
Is it protected? I noticed that it's a white lettering. That means you hit it, single key.
Yep.
How about turning it off? I don't see.
What do you do in a 41?
I have no clue, but.
You hit the button again and it turns it off. On the 41, it's a rocker key, so you just, I guess it doesn't matter what kind of key it is, but
Well, I was, okay, so.
one click on, one click off.
Okay, there's no protection by hitting an alternate key.
No shift or anything
But
like
you
that.
don't lose anything if you turn it off accidentally, so you don't.
Right, yeah, you don't lose anything.
Okay.
Technically, it terminates entry.
Yeah.
So if you're typing 3.5 and you hit 3 off and you come back, 3 is entered, but
Okay.
and I didn't even cover some of the things. Shift on turns the clock on, just like it normally does in 41 and things of that nature. Shift, how do I laze? This setup, brings you to a different but analogous setup on the DM42 for things that are unique to this machine. Yes, there is a full screen editor, and this is one of the points we're going to talk about later when I'm looking for opinions. It's 4 lines, full size, the same size lines that one would see entering data or commands, but it's obviously 4 lines, full size. Same font and everything. An obvious question is, why not have 8 lines? And the answer, like the DM42 does, and the answer is because you can't do LCD segment lines in program mode. I would guess that over time, a lot of people will say, I'd rather have 8 lines of a vanilla font than 4 lines of LCD font or segment font. Obviously feasible. This was just the design choice that was made. The current line is highlighted, as you can see. It doesn't look great in the screenshots. Just a minute. I did forget to talk about that. There's a screen capture feature. You hold down 2 keys and it does a screen capture to a file with a BMP file, so then when you connect with the PC, you can just grab that up and you have still screens, which helps for filing bugs, and it also helps for discussions where it's this and it's that. You just do a screenshot and it makes a BMP. Sorry, I skipped that.
Like the DM42.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. The editor is not different. In fact, basically what this full screen editor is doing is the emulation layer is using the 41 editor to render the lines and then collects those and puts them in real time on the display. So it is the 41 editor. It's just 4 lines, not 1 line. So all the rules are exactly the same. If you start typing something, it inserts it. If you hit back arrow, it deletes the current line. There are 2 small one set of small enhancements. You can do shift up to go to the line 1 and shift down to go to the bottom of it. So you don't have to go back step, single step to navigate to the top. It wraps around top to bottom. So basically it's the 41 editor. It feels very, very different than the 41 editor does because it's full screen. So it's a very different feeling, but it's exactly the same behavior. So modules. How do you plug in a module if it doesn't have a slot? Yeah?
So in this mode, when you have a phone mode, it's go to dot, and then enter the line, go to the line like a normal one?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, behaviorally, it is exactly 41 behavior. It just looks different.
If you go to dot 999, it will go at the end.
It'll go to the last line.
Like you did for the...
Yeah. Yeah.
Which line holds the one that you asked for?
I'm sorry?
Let's say go to dot 100, which of the 4 rows has the line?
The top.
Top.
The top, it's anchored to the top. So if it's only a 3-line program, it's lines 1, 2, and 3, and the bottom one's empty, stuff like that. So for modules, how do you plug in a module? So it's a 3-step process. Step 1 is you copy the file, which is just a DOS file or Windows file, whatever. You copy the file onto the machine. Number 2 is you import it into the flash storage area, so from which you then, step 3, plug it in. So it's 3 different screens, arguably best shown top to bottom or bottom to top. You have no idea how much time was wasted on that discussion. But it's basically a very simple thing. Of course, the file has to be on the machine, so you copy it there, and then it has to be in a place that the user can pick it from to plug it in. So that's what the 3 steps are. Drag it over, manage the modules to put them into the place, and I'll talk about them in a minute, but it's conceptually very different initially than the CL, which the model is everything's in Flash and it always is there and so forth. This is different to get the modules in initially, and one of the reasons is because I would dare say the vast majority of CL users don't use updated modules just because the process of updating is non-trivial. Thanks to the work that Sylvain and Monty did, it's now achievable. If you want to do it, you're willing to spend an hour, you can do it. But it's hard and it's complex, and people essentially don't update ROMs because it's not drag and drop. So one of the goals here was to make it as simple as that, particularly since things like Angel's ROMs and others are being updated sometimes monthly. So you want to have the newest one. And there's also subtleties like if you're going to use the newest 41Z complex module, you have to have the newest version of the library forum module, so you have to update more than one, et cetera, et cetera. As you can see, so this is a mess. This is kind of like a directory list. I've copied, I've opened up my PC, I connected it, opened the PC, and dragged a bunch of .mod files over into a directory. This is what they look like on the screen. When you go to the Manage Modules screen, you hit the Import button. It brings you to a list of the files, and you import them, and then they come, as you select them one at a time, into the management screen, where this lets me manage my modules. Well, what does that mean? That means I don't have these screens, but you can hit the various buttons here to see the mod button shows you what's in the module header, which up until now, only maybe 4 or 5 people in the universe really understood what that was about. But now anyone can look at the module header and suddenly start seeing things like, why is this module only working page 7, and things of that nature. The ROMs is analogous. That shows you the actual ROM structure in the module and which ones are tied together and which ones are associated with doing banks and things of that nature, which were all subjects that, unless you were, one of these 8 people, you just didn't know and you couldn't see it and there was no way to tell. But now it's all kind of, you can just pop these things in and look at them and see them. So it's easier to understand them and understand how to use them. But the good news is you don't have to understand any of that to use it. You can delete modules and so forth. So in a sense, this is a list of all the modules that are in Flash, which can be easily plugged in for your use. Plug in means the 41 now sees it. But I can unplug it. It doesn't go out of the machine. It's just back in Flash. This screen here is the active modules. So this shows which modules are in the machine. And unlike in a physical 41, where you do have some control of how things can be loaded from the perspective of what you put in port 1 and port 2, this lets you control it by controlling essentially the order. The module loader loads them in top-down order. Some things override that. Certain modules are tied to a particular page. And no matter what order it's going to get loaded in that page. But other things are not, and it does matter. There are some modules that have to have found the other module essentially earlier in the search sequence for the ROMs and stuff. So once you come into this screen, you just hit plug and it brings you to this screen to pick one, and then it comes here. And then you can use these move buttons to move them up and down so that you can control the order in which they're going to be read by the loader. I think probably a good point to say, any questions about that? Because it's easy, it's hard to explain, but it's easy to do. Yeah?
Well, actually, tons of questions. But, when you load the ROM, does it check if there has a XROM conflict?
If it has what?
An XROM conflict. ROM ID conflict.
Yes, yes. If you plug it in, it understands that things conflict and they can't go. Yeah, it knows that. Does it tell you the XROM? I don't recall.
And is it a way for, when you see the list, to set which page is it from?
Not right now, but it's an obvious question. At first, this is enough, but as soon as you kind of get this immediately, then the obvious question for an advanced user something is, I want to be able to set the page. But to some extent, this lets you set the page. It lets you set the lowest page, non-conflicting lowest page, but not the absolute pages. But in things like the HPACS loader, the way the HPACS thing, the module, it's a very cool thing. The module loads the RAM pages and the ROM page into the same page, and then it starts to initialize, and the first thing that does is move the ROM code to another page that doesn't conflict, and then essentially hides itself so there's no conflict. So like the most sophisticated 41 ROM stuff, it all works because it's all the real code. Everything's good.
And then last question, in your discussion, how are you going to manage the ROM database, the mod database? to have plans to synchronize with Monty, because now you have to edit it. When I convert mud to ROM and ROM to mud, I have to understand which page it goes and so on. So
Yeah, it's,
since the module is updated frequently,
yeah, no, the coordination hasn't been done yet, but some level of that has to be done, because either that or the burden is on people like Angel or the others that are making these to release 2 sets of everything that they release, the mod format and the ROM format. The ROM format gives you more raw flexibility, but it also requires a lot more knowledge and skills of the person using it. The mod format is plug, done. There have to be more questions. I thought it was much messier than that. Ah, there we go. Tom was first.
Well, this is backing up, so if there's more questions on this, why don't you take those? Unless you want to back up. So
I'll back up. To
go
where?
back to the stack views you showed on the, yeah, right there.
Okay.
So the 2 stack view screens you show, the X register has 9.21, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And what about the right-hand one? Is X overwritten, or?
You mean here or
Yeah.
here? Here, no. When you click alpha, the display changes to this, and when you click alpha again, it goes back to that.
Right. But my question is what's really on the stack in both of those?
X is on the stack. Alpha is an alpha, X is on the stack. So nothing, in terms of what is actually you're operating on doesn't change. It's only the appearance, the location of the appearance.
Maybe this is exposing my ignorance of the 41, but what's in the Y register in those 2 screens?
41.
41.
We're just not seeing the X register.
Yes. The
Correct.
alpha register is a completely separate register.
Correct. Yeah. XYZT, none of those actually change when you go to alpha. It's only just the display. And similar stuff started happening with the 42. It's just that you were used to seeing X and Y on the 42.
When I showed a prototype that Rich and I built that did essentially this, not quite as polished, but one of the comments people made was that they wanted to see an X, Y, Z, and T tag next to those, and we put that in.
So, so I won the bet. I won the bet that someone would ask that question. So
I'm just relating what people of this group actually.
no, it's a good thing. I'm up $5. The simple trade-off is you can put the labels in, but you have smaller LCD segments. It's as simple as that. It's just the way the geometry worked. I mean, not just the way, but obviously if you're going to add a label, you're taking a digit away. But you don't want to take a digit away.
Well, no, we didn't do it in the same segmented font. We just put a little tiny X over next to
Yep,
it.
yep, and it could happen, but it comes down to purity, 41 pure versus labels, but I think the question ultimately is, in the case of the 42, it's different because you can control the display. You can have all kinds of different things there.
As soon as you're showing 4 levels of the stack, the purity argument is gone, because 41 never did that.
But X, the bottom is always X, the next one is Y, the next one is Z, the next one is T. Anyone that can't follow that metaphor is probably not concerned with using it, I think. Am I wrong?
I don't know. All I know is people asked me for it, so Rich and I put it in.
Yeah,
We also asked, in alpha mode, do people want to see the stack? And the answer we got at the time was no. So in our implementation, alpha did not show any of the stack.
If you maybe didn't participate in the DM42, this was a months-long discussion of how many different ways can one show the stack and what is the right answer. And in the case of the DM42, both because the code's there and it's not an emulation, you can do whatever you want. Ultimately, the answer SwissMicros made was you can have whatever you want in any order you want, in any size you want, in any font you want. So that have at it, do what you want. But if you actually go and look at what most people, other than people trying to find something that it can't do, and there's plenty of us that do that. But other than that, most people pretty much have X, Y, Z, T, maybe L, in a different size or something just for reference. But everyone that's using RPN understands X, Y, Z, T. As soon as you want to start seeing L and seeing alpha and all that, you're into another gray area. Jeff?
Couple points, isn't it XYZT?
Only in Canada.
Okay.
Only in Canada.
And number 2, Peter actually brought it up. On the DM42, there's an iOS tool to update Flash.
Yep.
And there's also Windows.
There's also what, I'm sorry?
A Windows tool to
Yep,
update.
yep,
So
exact same
it's
tools.
the same way, you're just, it's not the DM tool, it's now just root directory, load.
Both methods still work. I use DM tool, I find it simpler, easier, more predictable. Other people like to drag the thing over to the flash drive and have it do it, but both work fine. It's both simple.
Yeah.
Yep, Jim?
Did Michael make it such when you export a file, it's not in some obscure .raw format? Is it going to be like a...
The state file?
No, just a program. Do you have
Gonna get there.
All right.
I'm gonna get there.
Thought I was ahead.
We'll go. Go ahead.
Do you have, is there an ability to switch the 41 to like what it would print out would look like?
To see what, I'm sorry?
Okay, so like if you were trying to print results and the printer is on, is there like a virtual printer for the 41?
No, like the printer that's built into the free 42, no, there isn't. But it does print on a real whistle printer, the IR printer. David?
I think something that would make the issue of overlays perhaps go away is the ability to display the user mode assignments. So maybe, just a quick example, if you get the display key a third time, it shows a map of the keyboard, maybe a part of the keyboard, with what user mode functions are assigned to this.
So what you're saying is if you could build in some kind of help that had that kind of stuff in it would be a good thing. Okay. Let's see what the slides say.
I'm giving pay you to do that.
Sylvain?
Jeff, you got also the Unix and Mac tools to update, not just Windows. And you got Catalog 6, they good for Windows T. If you do Catalog 6 on the CX, you got all the key assignment.
Right.
Yeah, I'll use key
But
assignment.
it's just nice having the overlays.
Yeah, seeing it visually, yeah. I meant to ask a question at the beginning. Does anyone have any idea how terrifying it is to do a 41 presentation with Sylvain in the audience? Love you, but it's terrifying.
I got mine done before he joined.
Where were we? So modules is it as simple as I think it is? You know, stuff that kind of comes out of your head, it's hard to judge if it's simple or not. By the way, I didn't say this at the beginning. I have a couple. I didn't want to send them around while you're doing it because it's easy to get down the rabbit hole playing with it and destroy the demo data and that kind of stuff. But I have them. We can check them out. PC Exchange, again, there's basically two modes. One is you connect it, you go into the menu, and you say connect via USB fat drive, and drive G or F or whatever on your PC or Mac opens up, and that shows 4 or 5 folders. One folder for the help file, one folder for the modules file, one folder for the off-screen files, one folder for the state files, and another folder that I'm not thinking of at the moment. So it's just, you move files in and out by just drag and drop. It's Explorer or it's Finder, and you just drag the files back and forth however you like. The other mode, as we were just talking about, is for updating. You use the menus to go, you connect it up, use the menus, and so for people who don't know the DM42 update procedures, there's two things you can do. You can put it into bootloader mode, which sounds, geeky and, only for people in this room kind of thing. But it really just means the machine's ready to absorb a file, and you go to a setup program and say, send this file, and it goes, send, done. And a lot of people find this easier, which I find confusing, but you can take the same firmware update file and drag it to the folder that we just talked about, and then when you exit from virtual disk mode, the OS looks and notices that there's a new OS file and reflashes for you. To me, that's more manual because you're dragging and dropping and doing things. I find it easier the other way. Module file, screen capture, that was the other folder. So if you take a bunch of screenshots, you then plug it in, go to the capture folder, and then there's a bunch of BMP files that you can then copy to drop into documents or whatever. Somebody just mentioned program import export. The sort of the universal format of that is called a raw file, and Sylvain, that's basically just a byte stream of the program, isn't it?
It's the tokenized version of it.
Tokenized, okay. So yes, eventually, raw file, it's not there now, and it's not shipping now. It may be there by the time it's shipping. It's just going to be a logistics and timing sort of thing. But the idea is the same as it is on other platforms where you have a raw file. The 42, essentially the same thing, let you do. So somebody has a program, they just either type it in or get it from the boards or the, whatever, emulator, and you just send a raw file to someone and it's imported, and so you can add or export one file at a time. Help files also coming later. I'll talk more about that in a minute. How am I at time? How am I doing time-wise?
You got 12 minutes.
Okay, yellow light going on.
Yeah.
Tom?
Go back a second. And this came up with the 42, I think, is a screen capture dump programmable?
No. No, it's asynchronous to the emulation. Because the 41 ROM didn't do it. There are things that essentially you could trick the system into doing it, but it would have to be easily justified for obvious reasons.
Well, that was a weak argument because the 41 didn't have a screen dump.
Well, it didn't have a screen, so to speak, right? This is another screen where I talk about there are a lot of little annoying things in the 41, mostly because it just had a tiny screen, which for its time was the best there was and the latest cutting edge and this and that, but you can only get so much data into it. So we tried to fix some of the annoying things. One of the things I mentioned earlier is the alarm icons. If you were a user of the alarm function in the 41, and I think the vast majority of people were not, but if you were, one of the issues is what state am I in? Did I miss an alarm? And you can't tell, and you have to go in and you have to really know it thoroughly. Here is just kind of look at the status and is there a pass-through alarm? There's an alarm ringing and stuff like that. The program name and line number always are available when you're in the stack mode, and sysinfo mode, they're there. I didn't mention it, but when you're in the editor, full screen editor, they're also available there. So you can always have context for the program and line that you're on. A very cool, subtle thing that David, the programmer, sorry, I didn't mention at the beginning, both David and Michael are involved in this hours a day, every day, and every step of it. And they're just a joy to work with and creative and open to new things. It's just been a pleasure to work on this. One of the kind of weird things on the 41 is when you start using alpha a lot and it's blank, it can be confusing what's going on because you go to there and the screen is just totally empty and it's not clear, am I not doing something right or is it not there? And of course you type something and then you've just destroyed whatever's there. So that works just fine, and when we were implementing this, what we noticed is the blank area where alpha is, if there's nothing in alpha, is blank. And it's odd looking and it's equally confusing. So we said we need something to represent that area when it's blank. So David thought about it that night and came back the next day with essentially a halftone of the font. So when it's actually much darker looking in the screenshot, but on the machine itself, and I have some and I'll show it to you, when there's nothing in alpha, it says barely readable, like a ghosted font, blank. So you can tell that the screen is blank, which makes it look much better than just an empty part in the screen. So like a little subtle, kind of nice little twist, I thought. The printer module I mentioned before, if the module is active and it's plugged in, then the printer status shows up, and if it's not plugged in, then that area is visible, so you're not seeing it. And this is one of mine. Who remembers the little gap between the G and the rad? And who? Okay, honest. Don't just say this to appease me. Who was annoyed by that? It's fixed.
I always thought it was G-rad.
There was the whole PPC article about why that was. Basically, it's because the size of the enunciators when they were making the LCD. But it was annoying. It bugged me forever. It's fixed. You know, small things for small minds. Some future things, even though the product hasn't even shipped yet, some things that we're looking at, and the reason we're looking at them is to not design out making these things implementable when we get to them. What we call bulk module import. And without getting into exactly how it's going to work, let me tell you why it's needed and conceptually how it works. There are a lot of module configurations that are codependent on other modules and dependent on versions of other modules and dependent on load order. And the reasons behind it are clear and documented, and for people who are interested in that kind of stuff can figure it out. But an awful lot of people are just like, I just want to use that, and I don't really care what those details are. So think of it this way. It's not going to be implemented this way, but think of it this way. If I have a module configuration that I like this ROM and this ROM and this ROM and this ROM and this ROM, I can make, not really, but I can make a zip file that has all of those modules and the information about how to load them in one file, and I can send it to you, and you can drop it in the machine, and then you have that configuration working without knowing or caring all those subtle little ROM things about it. It's important in the sense of when modules are being updated, and again, they are quite frequently, it's hard to, you have to have the right versions and this and that. So people like Sylvain, Angel, and some of the other demigods of the 41 world can just master these sets of stuff and just put them out on a website or whatever, so that it's, a lot of people want to explore some of these things, but the subtleties, you know, there's not one place that you can go read, and why does it have to be in page 6 and not page 7? Why does page 8 have to be used for this? People, a lot of people want to use it, but don't really care what the answers to those questions are, so they just want to just get it without learning. So this will let that bulk format. Also, it saves about 100 keystrokes, you know, after you wipe the machine and you got to go rebuild everything. So it's just going to be kind of like import, you know, Monty's favorite or Sylvain's best or whatever. The raw file import, export I talked about. There's going to be an on-device help screen, as there is in the DM42, and similar to the DM42, it's going to have information only on the things that are unique to the 41X. There's not going to be an attempt to try and recreate the 41 manuals or any of that, except probably the flags, just because, Joe, did we have the discussion this morning about the flags, right? What flag number was it, right? You know, as many years as you're doing it, everyone can remember flag 21, 25, and 55, but nothing else. Is that right? Roughly? So that better be geek, okay. In addition, one of the things that agged me from the beginning with the 42 is if the thing has an HTML viewer, essentially, I mean, obviously with very limited tags, but if it has a viewer in there, I want to view what I want to view, not what they want me to view necessarily. So this is going to be expanded to essentially the main help file will have a link to a custom help file that you can write whatever you want in it, you know, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out, and then that one can link to another one, can link to another one, and so forth. So essentially you can make customized help files so that you can put in notes about how to use the program, what the key assignments might be for the program, physical constants, girlfriend's phone number, you know, all the bells and whistles, basically. So you have to, to some knowledge, you have to have some basic idea of what HTML is, but the items that it supports are pretty limited. And basically, if you look at the DM42 help file, you can see, you know, you can do bolding and underlining and things like that, but there's no images in that. But the bottom line is, people can craft a set of programs in a module and make a little help file that goes with it that can then go into the machine, kind of like the little notes you would write on the card, but a little bit better than that. Is that a good thing? We think that's a good thing, right? Am I the only guy that wants that kind of stuff?
No, that's a good thing.
Okay, the interactive portion of the discussion. Yes?
I was wondering when I should best ask this question.
Now.
How many 41CL users are there?
Correct me, because I won't be right. On the order of 500.
Oh, okay.
Well, 500 boards have been purchased. Many of those were purchased by people because they could.
Sylvain has 220 of them.
So, but it's an important question and this could be where you're going. It's an important question. There literally are many that were bought because people are in this world and want to have one and it's available. It's an interesting aspect of this community, in my opinion, that the members give huge amounts of time and effort to make things for the community at basically no profit. In fact, a loss. Jake sells DVDs. I think the labor rate is 1 cent for every year he puts in, kind of thing, that kind of thing. So within the community, people like Monty made the CL, and I don't think there's 500 were sold, 100 are being used. Somebody else have an opinion about that, probably? And of those, a lot of people aren't using it because it's immensely powerful and flexible, but it takes a lot of learning.
Yeah.
You have to keep using it. You have to stay after it. One of the goals here was to give you not quite as much capability, but easier to use, just like drag a module over and that kind of thing. It kind of shields you from things like flash and storage and how all that works.
And added to that, really how many active meaning documenting, I'm sharing and participating, 41 users are there?
That's a good question. I don't know. 40, you mean in the world?
Well, we have, yeah, I mean, there's websites dedicated to 41, and I occasionally will post or fact something, and it doesn't seem like there's really a lot.
Well, I think one of the goals here was for there to be more, right? And I don't mean that strictly from a financial perspective or anything.
Right.
It's the big issue with the 41 is that they're fragile. They're great, but they're fragile, and the more you use it, the more that you're carrying them, the more, I have a little microcosm of story. Okay, I admit it, I have 4 41s out on the desk where I work, and they're used within the course of a week. Each one gets touched once. One of them, a CX I had that wasn't one I doctored or rebuilt or whatever. It's a CX that I got off of eBay a few years ago. I happened to pick it up one day and did something with it and put it down. And the next day, I wanted to do something that had the same topic, and I picked it up and it wouldn't turn on. And I thought, well, it's okay, I got fresh batteries here, and popped them in and it wouldn't turn on. And play, the upper post broke. Somehow, doing that broke the upper post on that machine. And that's just the nature of the plastic and the aging and all that, and what we now consider poor design. So one of the goals here is to all the people that would and can and want to play with 41s, but don't want to buy them off eBay at ridiculous prices, don't know how to fix them and deal with all that, can get a machine. I mean, this machine is going to be cheaper than a used 41, and it does everything. Now, it's not a real 41, and there are people that way, but I think there's a lot more interest in using 41 stuff than the ability to do it cheaply and conveniently. That's my opinion. I'm the one with the mic. I just happen to be the loudest. What do you guys think on that topic? Just Roger.
The answer to that is, how impervious is this to crashing because of static and things like that?
I have never seen that happen. I've had a DM42 since day one of the beta program, and I've never, Gunther, you've had them even earlier. Have you ever seen a static crash?
No.
I've never once seen that, ever, on any, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
And believe me, if somebody had that happen, they'd be all over the SwissMicros, the whiniest people on earth. Oh, sorry.
Snivel, whine. The 41 in the flight deck, and you know how dry aircraft are, would crash on me quite a bit, so I was very happy with the CL. This is my go-to computer, the DM42. Never had a problem. Never had a problem. Freezing.
I paused right when you asked that because I had to think. I'd never heard of that ever once. Not one person ever reported that. So damn lucky or really good RFI engineering, I don't know. But it's the design is solid to that. But to Richard's point, feedback on Richard's point. What do you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people also that doesn't want to open up the 41 and replace the board with a 41 CL. For a lot of people, they are afraid to do that. It's like upgrading the 41 CL. A lot of person doesn't want to do that, even though it's not that complex.
Because of skills, or to keep it pure original? Or
Well, they
both?
are afraid, and also if you open up, very often, if the bolts are broken, then it's,
Yeah.
you're gonna see it and have to repair it, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of manual. So with that, you
Avoid the
got nothing,
warranty.
you buy a brand new calculator and.
Anything else? Nope.
Maybe an obvious question, but what is the availability and pricing at this point?
Coming, but we have to get your opinion first. You have to pay to play. You gotta pay to play here. Roger?
One thing that would be useful is an enunciator for stack lift disable, because if you enter a number, you don't know whether it's gonna erase the number that's already there.
There are only 3 exceptions to the rule.
Yeah,
In order
but
to use this, you should be able to remember those exceptions.
I know, it depends on what you've done earlier,
Yeah.
like a clear X or something.
Clearly that information is available in the M code, but extracting that out, I think that that's probably something that's not likely to happen because the universe of people that understand and could use that information is maybe a small part of this room. You know, which isn't to say that the room isn't, you know, I just don't think enough people would want it and could understand it and use it to warrant the work to do it.
35S has something for that.
The which?
The 35S, the one that commemorate the.
Yeah. Yeah, but they changed a lot of things in the 35S.
A friend of mine wrote a long program that was running for hours and hours and hours in the 41. And I asked him how it was doing. He said, well, he interrupted the program and then looked through the stack and then started again. And he happened to
Screwed it up, yeah.
And stack lift disable was, in fact.
That'll teach them to investigate.
Okay, but you don't know when you're gonna, if you interrupt the program.
Okay, so the feedback. There's a couple of key things we want to talk about. I'm going to talk through some of the lower ones and then come back because I got to go to a different slide. Is anyone aware of any modules that are not supported on things like the CL or i41CX on the iPhone or V41 on PC or any of the other popular flavors? I'm not aware of any, but I certainly don't know everything. So we were just wondering, does anyone know of any modules that might be challenging to support? We'd rather look at them early and come back, you know, than to have it just not work. You know?
Because the ROM's okay, right?
Oh, it's in my machine every time.
I would say that the only one that's maybe causing hard time sometimes is the HPACS mode, when you want to link to an HPACS Advanced module with an HPACS Advanced memory module, and you want to link the two together.
The amount of memory available is 32K.
No,
so
it's 16K.
You
link,
can link too small.
Yeah, not too small, but you can have the one with the ROM and the RAM,
Yeah.
and the other one with the RAM. And
Just
you have
two
to
RAM
connect-
pages?
You have to connect, you have
To make
connect-
one big HPACS file
Yeah,
system?
32K.
Yeah, Angel's actually working on that now. So HPACS, from the beginning, HPACS is oddly, a sick bunch of guys. The HPACS module is one of the very first ones we started testing with, because if you can do that, everything else is gravy. You know, it just comes along.
I just picked up 41C from 79 in mint unused condition, which I'm going to convert to a version 5. But it came with 3 ROMs, and I don't know, I've never heard of this one. The Handy Compact.
Yes, Matthias has that. I've looked it up because is it a sex aid? You know, what the heck is
Well, I've gone in
that?
and it's all private, so.
The programs?
Whoever wants it, because I don't know if you've got the ROM image for it, I have not seen
The image is it is in CL, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Print support, and this is a wide open question, but I described the goals, at least the goals for initial, which is to support the 82143, which we all remember is kind of slow and kind of chunky, but it actually supported most things. Essentially, the only top level thing that original printer didn't support, that the next one did, is plotting, easily plotting. It's relative if it's only this wide, what you're plotting.
There's a format function that it didn't have, that is not widely used because of the fact that it didn't.
I was going to say, my experience is most people that bought an IL, the 82162 printer, had the other one before, and they already knew how to use the other one, so they never used the unique features.
And
except for Sylvain.
And the 143 had a more limited buffer size that affected the ability to do graphics, but I don't believe the ROM had that limitation. It was just all on the printer side, so that shouldn't cause any problems.
Yeah. Sylvain?
The L is also able to print barcodes.
Ah, thank you, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I meant to mention that.
Ability to change the vertical space.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how many people are printing barcodes these days. I don't know if it's, other than Sylvain, I don't know how many people are printing barcodes these days. Jim?
What about support for loading custom fonts, font symbols?
Hadn't come up. Do you mean in lieu of the LED, the LCD 14 segment font?
Right.
It hasn't come up, but
certainly the display supports it.
the hardware certainly can support it. Oddly, and I didn't know this, many of the 41 characters aren't mapped to the default character, like percent is not percent. So if you did do fonts like that, it wouldn't be a vanilla translation. You'd have to do character mapping to make the right things follow it. But I guess it's feasible. It's certainly feasible from the hardware perspective, but that would challenge the authenticity in the field kind of thing. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, is there like a feature on the 41X where you can read barcodes from it?
No. No, because the wand wasn't plug-in port, and there's no plug-in ports for any of that. Again, I'm going to come back to the keyboard. Edit mode. One of the obvious places where you can make a trade-off is in the full-screen edit mode. You can have 4 large lines that are the full LCD, or you could have more lines of smaller. I was surprised that everyone involved felt that 4 lines of the original is the right answer, because 6 lines or 8 lines doesn't give you appreciably more view. You know, when you're expanding from 1 to many, 1 to even many more is not that big of a difference. But let me ask the question this way. How many people think that 4 large lines versus more small lines, 4 large lines is sufficient and preferred?
Our vision gets worse.
Yeah, that's true. What's
Okay.
the average age of a CL user right now, or a C?
Excuse me?
Sorry, I can't hear that without my glasses.
Hang on. Can I have those hands again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10. How many people think that more lines, perhaps 6, of a different non-authentic font? 1, 2, 3, 4,
This is a problem with the 48.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Why can't you have both?
Yeah.
Well,
Brand
it-
people, right?
Yeah, it could be an option, but if the answer was only 2 people think more is better, oh well, tough day for 2 people. But so it was close, sorry.
A comment on that.
Yeah.
With only 4 lines, you can never see more than 1 line above and below. Right? I mean, if sometimes you want to see several lines before and after the one that you're interested in.
For sure.
And with 4, that's very different.
Yeah, it's absolutely, seeing more is better, but the trade-off is smaller, less clear, perhaps not even authentic anymore, because the size of some of the small segments in the original LCD end up being 1 pixel, so you can't even see them.
But I think I look at it as the output of a program. And you're trying to, and your program has specific information that you're trying to get as much out there as possible.
Mhm.
So if it's all numbers, then that's one kind of information. If it's alphanumeric, it's another kind of information.
Yeah. So an obvious thing is, just like that display button went back and forth between 2 stack views, one choice is to have a display button go back and forth between 4 large LCD-like lines and 8 small regular font lines. So if you need to see more, then you can see more, but then toggle back and forth. But it gets messy with the editor. It's not impossible, but it's hard because of the performance of the editor. Jake?
And also with more lines, you could see alpha and the 4-level stack at the same time?
Yes. Not in program mode, you're talking about the other?
Right,
Yeah.
in run mode.
We, to some extent, having done all those kind of things in the DM42, it opens the book to people saying, well, I'll just do that on this one too. And one of the things we tried to do is not just do everything that the DM42 did, to keep it more 41 pure. So if you want 17 different stack options, get the 42 sort of thing. But yeah, yep.
And if you have more line, then you're gonna have it into issues, like intuitive. If you have, if it is a variable character length on each line, if you show 4 lines, you show 4 lines with a part and then scroll horizontally, vertically. So
You mean the all 4 line scroll or just one?
No, but because in edit mode, you can edit a file in extended memory. And then you can have one line of 200 characters, the other one 5, and then you got variable line length. So you have a window on that. Now, how do you move the window like that on the character?
But it's not really a window in the sense of a normal editor, because essentially the way the editor is created is the emulation is instancing each line with the editor and grabbing that and putting it into the display.
The editor, you can change line, you can swap into like that.
You can, but it's so slow is the problem.
I understand that, but that's, now if you put 4 lines, how you can, then you have an issue because you're changing how the editor works at the beginning, and then how do you handle those?
So essentially it comes down to, if you start making big changes like that, you have to make a lot of them so that it's right. Or, part of it comes down to purity. One of the, I guess unstated as I think about it, one of the goals at the beginning was as 41 pure as possible, plus enhancements, but where does that line end? And it changes, It's easier to draw the line if it's hard. Yes?
This maybe gets into another area, but I would almost, right. Me personally, I was a 41 person, right? I mean, I lived and breathed the 41 and published tons of synthetic stuff and all of that.
Yep.
But at some point, the 41, it was too damn slow, and I mean, all of a sudden, the restrictions for what I wanted to do became so great that I had to move on. I had to move on to the 48 because it was faster. I had more to do.
Which eventually became too damn slow, so you had to move on to the GX, which eventually became too damn slow, right?
Well, no.
It's not too damn slow until the faster one comes out.
Yeah, but even the faster, and even the 48 had constraints because if I'm writing programs, I want to have data output. I became display limited, and I wrote a program to actually be able to create a graphic so that I could get what I wanted in the display.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only relating that experience to. I've always felt that most people who buy a machine don't program it.
Right.
So what aspect of the 41 are you addressing? Are you addressing the RPN users who program? Are you addressing the people who just like the 41 because it was the first alphanumeric and it was RPN?
All of those with cache.
Okay, but I've often also felt that so few of the users programmed that the programmability feature of the machine was there to help provide improvements. Okay, and so what you're doing is you're taking technology, and I think that the obligation that I've always preached, if you want to put it that way, that programmability should be included with the machine to provide those people who are really serious users to express themselves and provide, better computational features and functions.
Mm-hmm.
So that a machine like this should also carry that burden that what you're saying is that we're using new technology for this new hardware to implement old ideas because they were so good and so popular. So that what I'm saying is when it comes to the display, that even those ardent 41 purists would say, yes, let's move on.
Well, one of my goals with some of the things like in the SysInfo screen was to do things that are so different from what one would expect in a machine to stimulate interest in ideas. Like the SysInfo screen is not the best idea that's possible of what else you could put on another screen that you might want to go back and forth to. But it just opens the door to, wait, what a cool idea. We could show other things too without interfering. So, you know, so no doubt where it's leading is, well, if you can show that, then you can show, and I put up a screen of all the little annoyances. Trust me, I didn't cover them all. Everyone's got their own. So, you know, it's a little dangerous because asking everyone to give you an idea means everyone's going to give you 4. But part of the goal was just to show that, you know, the box is open to good ideas and we want them. And anyone who was involved in the evolution of the launch of the DM42 participated in seeing that a lot of what is in the DM42 now and a lot of what makes it great came from this discussion and SwissMicro's team being open to, yeah, that really is better. It was different because of the Thomas Oakes source code made it available and easy to change things without having to be tied to legacy OS. And so the cases are different, but you know, no one's tied to it must be this way. That was just sort of an initial vision with a little flicker to what else could be done. 41 stuff. What did we not think of? Is anyone a 41 user that we haven't covered yet?
Price?
I'll get there. But nah, I won't torture you. Basically, think DM42.
I'm sorry?
Just think DM42.
Okay.
Similar to DM42. Yep.
For a lot of programs, there are several outputs. One of them might be a thing to 6 decimal places, another might be an integer, another one might be something in scientific notation. And with a 41, if you have each output displayed separately, you can change the display mode accordingly. Now with this, if you show all, say you have 4 outputs, they all have to be in the same.
Correct. The display mode applies to all the stack, even if you're not seeing it.
That's even true with the 50 too.
But of course, display mode and seeing it kind of go hand in hand. But that is correct. Different levels of display for different stack registers is not. But you can do things with alpha. You can do AINT and stuff and take the integer part and labels and all that kind of stuff.
You can put them all in alpha mode.
You can, yeah. Yeah.
You keep mentioning the 42, how many 42, DM42 users load programs from their computer? Is it really common?
As opposed to typing them in?
Yes.
I have no demographics on that. I would say probably, you know, excluding the biases in this room, I would say probably most DM42 users just type the programs in.
Okay.
And that's partly because it didn't have any I/O initially, and a lot of them were 42 users.
But you keep saying that SwissMicro is open to changes and ideas and inputs. Why doesn't the 42 have a checksum function?
Well, first of all, a checksum function doesn't let you do anything other than have more confidence that you type right.
Well, isn't that
Right,
very
because-
important?
well,
when you're typing in a program, and
yes
you
and
know,
no.
okay, I've got it in, and all right, it's right or it's wrong.
I can tell you Thomas Oakes' answer for that, which I have to agree with, but it doesn't make either of us right. Thomas Oakes' answer is it's not in there because the HP42S does not have it in there. And his objective with the program was to create a accurate as possible, numerically more accurate than, but he's really not interested in many extensions. Though in the last year or so, several have come up that are very clever, like local variable support and things like that are very cool. But this topic has come up, someone's raised it, and that's his answer. The HP42S didn't do it, so this isn't going to do it. And so he can kind of, you know, and he's the guy that did all the work, so he gets the right to say no for religious reasons, or yes because it's a good idea, you know.
Well, my argument is that if you look at the machine and you look at its biggest flaw, from my perspective, was that it didn't have it, wouldn't, I mean, it just seems normal that, of course we're gonna add it.
Well, but remember that when the 42S came out, nothing had it. It wasn't until machines after it came out that the idea even emerged. Because up until then, we survived through the 25 and the 67 and all those others without that. Nothing before the 42S had it. It was only when you get to the 28C and others that had it. And then the 35S botched it and others kind of thing. So, I agree, but that's how I got slapped down. When I was on a rage about the 35S, and somebody pointed out, well, did you ever use a 25? Did you survive the experience? You know, that kind of thing.
Richard, you can have very easily create two functions for the 41 that will work with the old 41 and this one, that will back the program, calculate the label, and then the other one will do the CRC of it and give it to you in the X register.
I was going to say.
That could be done on a module by MJO, by NIVO, or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then that can be solved easily.
So you're ruining the surprise. Angel's already looking at doing that. Because I was on your side of this very discussion, so because the fact that the 35S botched it really got me aggravated, and I've ranted about it a lot of times. So the classic argument is, can you live without it? Yes, but would I rather? No, because of eyes and fingers and all that. So the main thrust here that I wanted to get to with the feedback is the keyboard on your left is the current keyboard. And again, to summarize, the left 5 most columns are the 41 keyboard, but the back arrow and the run stop were moved to the right edge to make them easier and faster to find. The other keys in the right edge are the new keys or the toggle keys. The keyboard display on the right is pure 41 for the leftmost 5 or 4 columns and the new functions. So display got moved, oops, wrong way. Display got moved down here just because it's going to be one of the most frequently pressed keys. But this is where it should be, this is where it should be. And this issue is either a non-issue, because I'm going to learn this machine and like it, and this would be the better answer, because there's no question that finding back arrow and run stop is easier. But to someone who is a touch typer on a 41, and that is more people than you expect, 41 pure is a big deal. Like all the new things are over to the right, and the classic things are there. We could talk about it for hours, but the key points separating the two are really that simple. Is it better to expose the back arrow and the run stop on the edge where they're quicker and easier to find, or is it better to keep the 41 keyboard exactly as it was and have the other ancillary things out on the edge? So before we have a vote, is there discussion or questions? Eddie?
Is there a get key? I'm looking in the manual right now. I was like, okay, is there a get key or a key command with the 41C programming language?
By get, what do you mean?
Like, it's like if it pauses, and it's like during the program running, it pauses, and for you to insert the key, and it has the key code, like
Yes, well, yeah, but it's not called get, but you can do input and that kind of stuff, but it's not on the keyboard. You know, the 41 has whatever, 55 keys or whatever the number is, but it has 400 functions, which is where alpha and all the other names came from, plus the reassignable keyboard.
You get the extended function memory that has the get key, then you can return
the key code to then use in the next assignment. Yeah. Dave, you had a question?
I just was thinking that I tend to lean a little more towards the pure functions, but for a different reason, which is that the numbers and the run stop are all grouped together. And I think a lot of times when you're running a program, it's number, run, number, run, number, run. And if that's in a small box, it's easier to think than if it's number, run stop.
Yeah, there are a lot of facets to this discussion. Because the keyboard feels different than a 41 keyboard does anyhow, touch typing and feel and all that's going to be a different experience.
What about key assignments too?
All that works. All the key assignments, that all works the same way. Possible exceptions are the cursor keys, because there are no keys.
I mean, the key assignment, is it, can you key assign for the RS key?
Yes, you can actually reassign the run
It's
stop
gonna
key.
be, you know, it's gonna be 40, it's gonna be different for two.
Yeah, but that's, yes, but that'll get worked out, yeah, yeah. Jeff?
I'm gonna ask you not to ask the question if you want anything but the original 41C keyboard.
Say that again?
I'm gonna ask you to not ask the question if there's a variation on the original 41C keyboard. I want you to keep it pure.
So in other words, you don't want to vote, you just want to have your own speech.
No, I just want to have that one keyboard. Why would you change the original keyboard? Because it's now 40 years old and people have been running.
The answer to the question is for the same reason that HP put run stop and backspace on the edge of every calculator they ever made.
Yeah, and
Because that's where you look for them and that's where you find them.
so I want the purest.
Well, there's no right answer.
Yes, there is.
Speed up.
Yes, there is, Joe. Jeff, if we want your opinion, we'll give it to you.
Hey, you funny guy.
Either we kill this now.
I mean, if I do touch typing, I'd probably use the right side of it.
Yes, here.
I've got some lines for you.
I only have a
The
couple more
label is
slides.
in the position, but the functionality is on the other page.
Okay.
I'd rather get through it and just try and rush.
That's how we
To keep you on your toes, that power up will randomly raise
Right
my
version,
keys.
the right version that's supposed
Okay.
to be, identical to the classical, the alpha of the program is reversed. So even that, it's,
Yeah, so that's why this was a religious topic. There isn't right, there isn't wrong, there is, for me, so the only answer that is actually viable is to put them in hands, let people use them for a while, and then ask this question, but that's not a choice. Yeah?
the only problem that I'm seeing is like the key code value. If you are gonna change, if you return that, then in the program that's checked for those key codes, then you're gonna be screwed.
Yeah, although that too can be caught through emulation. Already checked that. But yeah, so it's basically the question is it better to make this for people that are active 41 users and want it to be that way, or is it better to make that for people who haven't used them in a long time, think of
I have
learning?
no issue to changing as long as it's not breaking my program.
Yes.
Running all the time.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
That's the right answer.
A little bit off topic, but why is in one case custom CSTM and one case it's CST?
typo.
Which one is it gonna be?
Which one, we could vote on that. No, CSTM, it's gonna be CSTM, and I didn't even catch that. I get to break his balls. Yep.
I don't recall how the 42 is constructed, but if somebody really wanted to, could you disassemble the machine and move the keys?
No, you can't actually change the keys, they're on one sprue, so you can't actually do it. Okay, so then, please only vote once. So, those who think that the design that is this design over here, what I call the edge access design, better, please raise your hand. One. Okay. Okay, stop changing them, put them up and leave them up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Those who feel that pure 41 is better, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Can I use my other hand?
9. Okay. Wait. Okay. One last time. Put them up like this, all the way up, and leave them up. Okay. 1, 2, 10. So it's 11 to 10. So it's very unusual when this room is almost evenly split. And that's not the only factor, but it's obviously a key factor. But I've been told to get the hell going.
I do want to add that I would be happy with either one.
Thank
I'm
you.
not religiously attached to.
The truth, Eddie, is everyone will be happy with either one. It's just how much they whine about it wasn't their way later. But they'll use it and they'll be happy with it, and after a couple of weeks they won't even know that there's a difference.
But what key color are they gonna
The same.
Okay, I'm on it.
So, when can I get one of these? The answer is first quarter, unless you're interested in beta testing.
Beta testing.
In which case, the answer is probably late November, early December. And for those who were not involved, the beta test program is really very simple, and I wish more products worked this way. You can buy the product for less than it will eventually ship for. You get an early product, and you can take it, run away, and sell it on eBay, or you can participate in the beta program, which is very interactive. It's managed by Godwin Stewart, aka GSR Banks, on the forum. And it's, you know, it has all the passion and vitriol that go along with I want it this way and I want it that way. But it, as I said earlier, it led to a huge amount of improvements in what we now think of as the DM42, so it's a good process. They're going to have an announcement on the forum, I'll say within a week. I'm just guessing there, though. The forum is where it's all done. There's inevitably, can you do this, can you do that? And there might be a feeling that your suggestion to improve this or that is being ignored. It's not, but it might not get feedback. It might just be, yeah, we'll look at that later. But it's all being recorded, but the urgency when you're shipping a product obviously is on the feature set that's envisioned for launch to get that right, get it out the door. But there are even situations in the DM42 where something essentially wasn't right by enough people's views that it was changed. So, I urge you to get one and participate in the program and do provide feedback about I'd like this or that. We're going to try and have a separate area for that so that, instead of beta, this doesn't work, you put it in the new ideas when you have time key. Yeah.
Getting back to sort of 41 related features that aren't on the current one, I would love it if I could put a whole bunch of programs into a 41, press a button, and have it create a module file from the programs that I have on. Yes. In other words, here are my programs, boom, now it's a module.
Can be done. It can be done. Although you probably haven't played with it, but HPACS essentially accomplishes that. HPACS lets you just copy a bunch of focal programs to ROM, and you can just run them there. You can't take it out and copy it in the same way that you're thinking, but
I'd like to be able to plug them in, or plug these ones in, or plug those ones in, and use that as I would a module.
Do you think there's enough interest in it? Would somebody do that? And would Angel take that on? Because it's non-trivial. What you're asking is non-trivial. Because it's easy to do it once, one way, manually, but to make a thing that can automatically do it is non-trivial for obvious reasons. Like you can run focal in ROM, but you can't, there's a bunch of things about it and stuff. So the beta program is that. So we talked about we talked about, I put these shut up and take my money, parroting what Gunther had in his a couple of years ago. I thought it was appropriate. Yeah, this is all nice. I want one, right?
What would a compromise between the controversy about the original keyboard and having the RS on the corner would be, I don't know how feasible this is, would be put a little ridge, have the original keyboard and then the extra things on the right, but then have a little ridge down between the...
Yeah, believe it or not, we even talked about that, but it just introduces cost and complexity to the manufacturing process.
Are we ever going to make key assignments on those extra?
Yes.
Like the on key?
Yes, it's easy to do it, but what's hard is to make them act like the question we talked about. The key code number for the stop is 1 on the 42, and it's a different one here. So you can emulate it, but then it doesn't match the physical geometry of the mapping. It's no longer the fourth row in the second column kind of thing. So it's a trade-off. You can make it work, but then it doesn't seem logical. I wanted to take some time out to thank the folks to notice and send appreciation to the folks that I'm thankful for. David and Michael, which a ton of people have never noticed. That's what the D and the M are for in DM42 and DM41. Godwin, which online probably is GRS Banks. He was the one who succumbed to my incessant questions and said, look, it'll be cheaper and easier if you just be part of this. Angel, if you don't know him, if you get one of these, you will. Angel's a phenomenal developer to this day of ROMs that do things that we only dreamed of, complex ROMs and system programming, and he took the best parts of the CCD module and put them in with other things. He's just an amazing guy. And the coolest thing is his compiler for M code or assembler for M code is Excel. And that's a whole discussion to have another time. But Angel's also been part of this. He contributed some of the ROM extensions. He's contributed modules. Just phenomenal, phenomenally helpful. Just a guy that just loves doing this 24 hours a day. Warren, obviously, for the HP41 website and all that begat, you know, part of the success for the demand and stuff like this is because of what he's been able to keep alive. Sylvain for his support on the 41. People ask questions. You know the proverbial, I ask someone what time is it, and they tell me how to make a clock? Well, this happens with 41 questions, but it's a good thing because I read them patiently. I have no idea how he has the patience to make them, but I still learn stuff about the 41 to this day, so thank you for the time that you do for that.
Remember what Carl Sagan said, right? If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
Partway there. PPC, collectively, although that specifically involves from the time Richard, Joe, Jeremy, and some others that we were meeting with every Friday night, who changed me from someone who, this is an interesting thing, maybe I could learn more about it, to, I want to make this do things it can't do. Like, it's just a viewpoint change in how you look at these things, and that goes back to those great Friday nights in Southern California that we spent so many years ago. But that's what sort of ignited my fire about, yeah, the book is nice, yeah, but what can it do that it can't do? That's what I want to know. And also a thank you to my clients who will never see this video, but who would have a better understanding of why I said, no, I can't do that today. There's a new ROM version out. I'll get back to you soon. Any questions on anything? I kind of skipped through some stuff, but...
You forget Monty.
What's that?
You forget Monty. Monty.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped in the, Monty for sure. Not part of this in a ongoing sense, but certainly part of it in the innovation sense. What he created with the CL showed that there's a market there.
He has no problem thinking there's competition or anything
No,
like that?
no. In fact, he's announced that. I mean, I haven't been on the phone with him about it, but I have indirectly. He's announced that he's probably on his last batch anyhow, just because he can't get the components and so forth. I honestly don't think. Interesting question. Does anyone think that 2 viable 41 replacement products is competition, and it's a bad thing for anyone, including the people making it?
No.
Right. Okay. We all want both, right? So I thought about it. I thought about it in the sense, but no. But you're right that I skipped over. And in a very real sense, his contribution and what he created led to the interest to justify going to do this. So he's a key contributor. Any other questions now? Thanks a lot. I have 2 machines during the breaks. You're welcome to use them and play with them and so forth. But I'd ask you to don't change the module configuration without asking because it can break things. Thanks.